Okay, I think we've got a pretty good group to begin with, so we might go ahead and start because we do have a lot to get through tonight, and I know we don't want to make a late night for everyone. So welcome everyone to the Postgraduate Study Essentials Workshop and Forum, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Learning Skills Unit, the library, Rightwise leaders, Macquarie mentors, and student well-being. We hope you'll find this forum useful, and we want to stress that it's an informal, friendly environment where you can get acquainted with Macquarie and also ask any questions that you might have. So my name is Carol Floyd, and I'm from the Learning Skills Unit.
I'm Vanessa Todd. I'm from the Learning Skills Unit as well.
Okay, and we will be hosting the meeting, Vanessa and I, and drawing on the expertise of our forum. So just to mention briefly, the goal of the Learning Skills Unit is to provide resources and help in academic skills that will help you succeed at university. So before we begin, I want to give an acknowledgement of country. So those of you who are new to Australia or maybe dialing in from overseas, and by the way, a special welcome to all of you, you may not be familiar with this custom. At the beginning of gatherings, especially large gatherings, we like to take the opportunity to recognize and pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which our beautiful university is placed. So this is an acknowledgement of country. If an Indigenous person is giving it, it will be called the Welcome to Country. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Macquarie University land, the Watamatigal clan of the Darug Nation, whose cultures and customs have nurtured and continue to nurture this land since the dream time. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Okay. All right, so today we're very lucky to have on our panel a range of students and staff. So we're going to start off some brief introductions, and we're going to ask everyone to just tell us a little bit about their position and a little bit maybe about what they're studying, and if you're not studying and you're a staff member, maybe what area of the university you're working in, as we will all do. So I'll start off with myself. I'm a learning advisor, as I've said, and I've been at Macquarie for 18 years now. And my disciplinary background is I did an undergraduate degree in philosophy, and then I did a master's in linguistics. So Vanessa?
All right. Well, like Carol, I've been at the university for a few years, and I did my postgraduate degree in applied linguistics at the university. So yeah, this is a session really close to my heart because I think a lot of the things that we'll be talking about tonight were things that I've experienced myself.
Okay, and Sean?
Yeah, hello all. My name's Sean Bullock and I'm a research librarian attached to Macquarie Business School. Just to give you a bit of an understanding of what that means, research librarians support academic staff and postgraduate students across the different faculties and schools with advice around resources and research skills. Been a librarian now for around 20 years with most of my time in the private sector and the last 6 years here at Macquarie. My undergraduate was in economics and my postgraduate was Masters in Librarianship.
Thanks, Sean. And now we have Monique. Now, Monique is a Rightwise leader, and the Rightwise leaders are a fantastic team of highly experienced and knowledgeable senior students who help other students with writing. So Monique.
Welcome everyone, so I'm Monique. I am currently a student at Macquarie University, so I finished my Masters last year and now I'm currently doing a PhD, which is a higher degree research degree, and I'm doing that in the Biomedical Sciences department in the Faculty of Medicine, Health and Human Sciences. And I'm currently doing research into the brain and the connections within it. And as Carol said, I'm also a RightWise leader. I've been with the program for almost, I think, 3 years now, because I've been at Macquarie for a very long time. And like Carol said, it's a really amazing service that I definitely recommend you all to use. So what we usually have in a non-COVID time is that usually we have a drop-in service at the library. Currently it's online. And basically I like to think that we can help you with everything to do with assignments except for content. So we can help you to understand the question, we can help you with referencing, we can make sure that you're going on the right track and answer any questions that you have.
Great, thanks Monique. And also we're very lucky to have Irene from the Macquarie Mentor Program. And I hope you're all signed up with this fantastic program. But if you're not, Irene maybe can tell you a little bit about it and how to get signed up.
Thanks, Carol. Hi, everyone. My name is Irene. I'm a recently new postgraduate student. I study a Master's of Public Health. I did my undergraduate degree at Macquarie as well. So like Monique, I've been here for a long time. I've been with the Macquarie mentor team now, and the peer mentor program is a really nice program to help transition new students into university life. You'll have peer mentors like you'll see on your screen, and you get matched with one. And if you have any questions during your time at for the first semester of at your time at Macquarie, these mentors are here to help you, and they can direct you to any type of services that you need.
Thank you so much, Irene. And also just to let everyone know, at the end of the session, we will be showing some slides that have links, etc. on them. Chloe, would you like to introduce yourself quickly? Chloe is also a librarian.
Hi, yes, my name's Chloe. I work in the library, and tonight I'll mostly be in chat, helping answering questions, posting some links. So you'll probably see me in the chat function.
Thanks, Chloe. And last but not at all least, we have Paul from Wellbeing, which is a very essential part of the university. Paul.
Carol, yeah, my name's Paul. I'm a student wellbeing advisor. Wellbeing, again, as a postgraduate student, is going to be something that external pressures may sort of put pressure on your education here at Macquarie, and wellbeing is here to help you with that as well. So it's broken up into 3 main areas: counselling, accessibility, and welfare. But we do a lot of other stuff as well. Or you just, all you could do is just come and have a chat to us and let us know what's going on, and we can do our best to refer you to both internal help within the university or external specialists if need be as well. It's a completely free service. It is criminally underutilized by students. So if you feel like you need to just speak to someone, just a sympathetic ear and someone to just bounce ideas off, please come and see us at Wellbeing so we can do our best to assist you and keep you here as long as you need to be, and not much longer than that.
Okay, all right. Now, I think we'll hand over to Vanessa now, and she'll tell you a little bit more about this session.
Right, thank you, Carol. So great to hear about some of the people that will be talking tonight, and we'll be looking forward to getting your any questions or comments in chat. Welcome to those of you that have told us where you're from. How exciting that we've got people from different continents as well. That's great to see. So welcome to you all. And today in this session, we'll be talking about 4 important skills that are particularly relevant for postgraduates. There they are up on the screen. And our panelists will be sharing their experience and their suggestions. And through that as well, we'll be recommending different services and some resources so that you'll be able to touch base with people across the university as you're studying, and to get the kind of assistance that you need at different times. Okay, so if you've got any challenges, pop it into the chat. Chloe and the mentors will be helping. Keep your audio and video muted as we're recording, and we'll probably pause every so often to have some questions and answers. So if your question isn't answered straight away, just hang on, and we should get round to that. Okay, back to you, Carol, to launch a poll just to check who's coming from where and who we all are tonight.
Okay, so we've introduced you to the panel and to how the session will work, and we thought it would be really nice to find out a little bit about you. So I'm going to launch a poll. It's completely anonymous, so don't feel shy about answering the questions. We just would like to find out a little bit about everyone who's attending today. So I'll give you a few moments to do that. Hope everyone can see that poll. And there are 2 questions there, just two questions, but a lot of options. Okay, a lot of people are answering. That's fantastic. We'll just give you another minute, maybe. Okay, I'm going to give 10 more seconds. If anyone wants to come in the next 10 seconds. Okay, I'm ending the polling and I will share the results with everyone. Okay, so we have 78% of people are studying full-time and 18% studying part-time. 19% are returning after an absence of 5 years, which is, that's great. And working full-time, 19%, working part-time, 21%. So quite a few people working, and that does add some challenges to your study. We will be talking about things like that later. International, we have 70% and domestic 19%. So welcome to all of those of you coming from other countries, as well as to those who are from Australia. And we have 68% of you are doing the Masters by coursework. And it looks like only 1% is doing it by PhD, so doing HDR or higher degree research, which actually could be other than a PhD. Okay, so with faculty, we have 25% arts, 22% science and engineering, 52% from the Macquarie School of Business, so Sean, that's your area, and 4% from medicine, health, and human sciences. Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks everyone for doing that. I do have another poll for later in the, and I'll stop sharing these results now. Okay, so we now know who we are, and we'll move on now to our first topic in the session to deal with the feedback from the forum and your questions as well.
Okay, well, thank you, Carol. Our first topic today is a pretty basic one, and maybe it doesn't feel like a very academic one. Is this helping me really get ready for postgraduate study? But maybe for all of you who are working and perhaps coming from other places and dialing in from other countries, you've probably realized that getting organized is incredibly important for study, particularly for postgraduates who are trying to juggle multiple things. So our first question then for tonight, Irene, as a mentor, do you think you could get us started? What are some of your strategies for staying organized?
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Some strategies I have to stay organized is that before semester starts, I have all my unit guides in front of me, and then I get my diary. Oh, you can't see because of my virtual background, but I put tabs on all the days that I have assessments, so I have a visual. Oh, you can kind of see it. So you kind of have a visual on your workload that you have, and so I always know that, so I know in the future when my assessments are due. And then I also like to have a physical timetable in front of me where I structure my classes, what times I study for certain subjects, as well as days I work. So I have a structure. That's how I get organized.
Right. Okay. So a structure, a bit of an overview, that's sort of the big picture, and then also sort of day to day and through the week. How about you, Monique?
So similar to Irene, I also have a diary. I don't have it on me. Sorry, I don't have any props today. But I think one thing that I can't stress enough is to actually write things down and plan your time. And when you're planning it, if you think, okay, I need to do this task, or I need to write my introductory paragraph, or I need to have these readings, always overestimate how long it will take, because I can almost guarantee that something will always take longer than you expect. And that doesn't mean that you failed or you're slow. It's just what life is, because sometimes you get distracted or you underestimate how long the reading is. But yes, I definitely recommend writing out a plan for each day and always overestimating your time, because there's no better feeling than if you finish a task earlier than you expected.
Okay, yes. And I suppose, especially when you start, you're not really sure how long things might take, but once you get into the swing, it's much easier to work it out. Yeah. Carol, I wondered if you might like to talk to this slide as well about planning and some suggestions for being organised.
Yeah, so I think a lot of things that people have said really speak to having goals for yourself. So your schedule is sort of your goal, what you're going to do by what date. And it's really good to sort of break it up into little chunks so that you don't have vague goals like write my masters of write my assignment, or write a literature review. That's vague and too overall. So breaking it down into little chunks really helps, we find. And so thinking about it as a SMART goal sort of helps you to break it down. And so it should be specific. So it should be like, in this Monday, I'll read for my section of a group project. And it should be measurable. So like how many articles you would read, and fill out summary notes for each. Don't just have a vague idea that I'll read for my section. Set yourself a goal. I'll read three journal articles. Like Monique says, sometimes these things stretch out and take longer than you think, but at least you have a goal. And if it's a measurable and then achievable goal, so A is for achievable, so it should be adequate. So try to be reasonable. I'm like Monique, I always underestimate how long things will take. So I'm not a good example, but do try to be reasonable about what you set yourself to do. Relevant, so it will be relevant. It will help you get forward into your assignment and to get somewhere. And time-based, so you've allowed yourself a specific time. So that's what we sort of call the SMART goals, and it's really a good way to help you break down what you're doing into specific goals at a specific time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Sean, I wondered if you could jump in now and tell us a little bit about organising your stuff, because it's one thing to organise your time, but there's a lot coming at you. So
yeah, that's right, Vanessa. There certainly is. Look, this is a topic that we could run a 1-hour workshop on its own. But I just want to cover some of the basics. Some of this may seem quite simple and straightforward, but there's just some primary sort of points that I want to cover. So there's many ways of keeping your information in order, but it's important to find a way that works for you and make that part of your routine. Say 10 minutes of planning around file organisation will save hours and heartache down the track. So organising your files, create separate folders for each subject. These are just suggestions, you don't have to follow, but these are the sort of fundamentals that we sort of recommend to people. So create a separate folder for each subject, create separate folders within the subject folder for, say, assignments, lecture notes, reading materials, etc. And it's really important to name your folders and files meaningfully and logically. Okay, so they make sense. As soon as you see them, you know exactly what they are. This is sort of the 101 of organising your information, but back up your files, for goodness sake. It may seem quite straightforward and obvious, but not everyone does it all the time. Make sure you back it up regularly. I like to, each time I've been using the files, I like to back them up. And back them up to an external drive or a cloud service. Okay, so make use of, don't save them in the same place you have your original files. I have had students doing, you know, substantial, say, theses, so HDR students, that have had issues. They haven't backed up their work for quite some time, and then they find that it suddenly has become corrupted with a few weeks to go before submission date. I know of 2 students in the last 6 years that have had major problems with something like that. There's something called EndNote that I want to draw your attention to. So it's a reference management software that you can use. There's another one called Mendeley, which is very similar. And this is a way of keeping your references and related materials organised in a searchable personal library. You can synchronise your references between up to 3 of your personal devices. And the main purpose of EndNote, not only of keeping your readings in the one place and keeping them organised, but you can use your references in word processing documents to create formatted citations and reference lists. So EndNote is something that is available to you, and bibliographic referencing software is available to you. So have a think about using that. Actually, in some of the business courses, it is actually compulsory to use EndNote. So that's probably something that you will you'll come across, and you'll meet myself or one of the other business librarians, and we'll give you a bit of a training session on that.
Okay, well, that's great to know that we've got that support there, and some simple suggestions, but oh boy, I think we've all lost something, and yeah, that can be pretty painful.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, but moving on, Paul. You know, we've got some great advice here for being organised, but what about that balance between the work that we're doing and the smart study goals that we're setting, and a bit of time out as well? What's your take from the wellbeing perspective?
Yeah, look, study is going to be one of those things that, especially in your postgraduate, what you've got to study is going to take over a lot of your life, but it shouldn't take over everything. A lot of students do seem to place their studies really high, and they are here to study, some international students who come here, but you really need to take some time out for yourself a lot of the time as well. A lot of things you can do to take time out for yourself is actually at the university as well, so don't feel like you have to do it outside of university as well. Make university somewhere you want to come to. So whether that's joining a student group, whether that's joining a social sports group, joining the gym, there's plenty of ways to get involved at university as well, and just make your time enjoyable here as well. I think a lot of us get wrapped up in study, and it can be overbearing, but just know as well, you can always talk to someone about it as well. And especially in the current climate with COVID, financial pressures are another thing that will creep up during your study. Make sure you just speak to the university as well, because we can help as well. There are accommodation services, there are a lot of schemes that are out there that may help assist you and may sort of let you just focus on your study just that little bit more, not having to worry about other things as well. So big thing, take advantage.
All right, thanks very much. Thank you. Yeah, and I liked that you mentioned, you know, the student groups and the gym. The gym is an excellent place, and for those of us that can't be in the gym physically at the moment, they're even streaming live classes as well. So check out the Macquarie University Sport and Aquatic Centre webpage, and you'll find the links to regular classes that you can take online. I, for one, have been doing that over the last few months, and it's been great. So anyway, we've been sharing some of our experience, but Chloe, have we got some questions in the chat?
We've had a couple of questions around things, but not around specifically organising information, just around how to access online classes and a few other things there. So there have been links provided in the chat as well.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, well, I'll pass it over now to you, Carol, to talk about the second section.
Okay, so our next topic is being a successful learner. So we'll just get the next slide going. Yeah, so research shows that actually using effective study techniques is as important, if not more important, than intelligence. So we might all think, oh, we're really smart, we've got into this program, but if you don't use effective study techniques, being really smart doesn't really help. So today we just want to talk about some of the techniques and strategies that you can use to be a successful learner. So we might start with the question, what's your key study tip? And I might ask Monique to start with that one.
So there's probably about 1 million study tips I could think of.
Well, you can give us the top 3.
I don't know if I have 3. So I think the first thing is that when you're reading articles or whatever you read in your specific area of study, always have either a book or a Word document out ready to type down interesting information, because I can probably I probably can't count the amount of times I've read something very interesting and be like, oh my gosh, I need to cite this, and then try to go back and find that piece of information, and then I can't. So I definitely recommend to always keep a log of what you've read, where you've read it, because otherwise you'll be going around in circles, and I can't tell you how many hours I've wasted trying to find one reference for, pardon me, one piece of information. Another skill, can't think of another one. So is there someone that you could pass on to for now? Sorry.
Yes, no, that's fine. And that is a fantastic advice, because we're so often reading things and just thinking, yes, making the connections in our head, but not putting them on paper. So then they get obscured and we forget them. So Irene, how about your study tip? What would you say is a key study tip?
My key study tip is I know it's easier said than done, but try to have effective study periods. So whenever you start studying or starting an assignment or anything, I like to keep all my phones and distractions away from the computer where I'm working at. And then I would work, it all depends on the individual, but I work maybe an hour productively, and then I take a 20-minute break. So between the breaks, I can drink water, go for a quick walk so my brain can have a quick break, and then when I come back to studying, it's refreshed and it's ready to learn again.
Great. Okay, that's really useful too. And I might also ask Paul, because you deal with students with study tips all the time. What would you say is an important key study tip?
Yeah, the big one I think that every student sometimes neglects is just taking time out for yourself and rewarding yourself when you are meeting some of the goals that you've met. A lot of the time you can be buried in the work and the units themselves and really just be pushing yourself all the way through it. But don't forget to just to reward yourself, even if it is, try not to be like me and reward yourself with food, otherwise you're definitely not going to get that quarantine body. But yeah, just really reward yourself in terms of just taking some time out, take a breather, just take a step back and look at what you've achieved, and really take it in, because it's moments like that that are just far too fleeting, I think, for a lot of students, and it's easy to just get bogged down. The other last bit I would let you know is just learn the policy and procedure for what's called special considerations. If something does affect your study and come up and put you through a loop in terms of being sick maybe on an exam day, do not force yourself to go into to uni. You can come speak to us at Wellbeing. We can look at getting something like a special consideration, which is almost like a sick note, and that might mean a little bit of extra time on your assessments when warranted, or another exam on another day. So really just don't don't discredit your body. Don't sort of cheapen the study that you actually, or the hard work you've put in. Make sure you're getting the academic results that you deserve every time you sit an exam, do an assessment, do your study.
Thank you, Paul. That's really important advice. I think another thing that research shows is that the human brain cannot concentrate for hours and hours and hours on end. You do have to give yourself breaks, and you are so much more effective if you do. I read something recently that said that your cognitive abilities or capacity increases greatly if you just do every 2 hours at least some exercise, even if it's just moderate exercise, walking around, that it really does help your brain to work better. So it's not just to be kind to yourself, but actually to make your brain work better if we take breaks. Vanessa, I know that you've done postgraduate studies. So would you say, what would you think is one of the key issues that postgraduates face in terms of study?
Well, I'll first of all say, I think Monique, Irene and Paul have given the best suggestions. They're really excellent. I think a lot of postgraduates actually lack a bit of confidence, and they can often feel a little bit nervous. Sometimes they think, do I really belong here? You know, can I do it? And, you know, I've got other things as well that I've got going on in my life. One thing I think to remember is that the semester is broken up into bits. So you can usually get through your 6 or 7 weeks of the first half, mid-semester break, then 6 or 7 weeks of the second half. And that can be helpful to sort of pace yourself. But I think the benefit for postgraduate students as well is that we all have more life experience. So we've lived a bit longer. We've probably had a few different part-time jobs. We've had experiences. We've done study before. So we actually know a lot. And I think that students don't always recognize the critical thinking that they're already able to do. And sometimes I think taking a walk or taking a break, as most of you have suggested, getting up, going out and having a bit of a think, stepping back a bit and thinking about the things that you're studying, you can be surprised how much you can bring to that yourself.
Also, just to say, if anyone has any good tips that you'd like to put into chat, you can do that as well. You don't have to only ask questions. You can give us some suggestions about what you found to be good study tips in the past, and Chloe can then let us know if we get any good ones there. I also thought I might just briefly bring up another topic of procrastination. I think we all struggle with that. So I might ask, does anyone want to talk about procrastination? Do you have any particular strategies for dealing with that? Monique?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is that don't feel bad if you do procrastinate, because I find even sometimes myself, after doing so much study, I still like, why am I procrastinating? I know better. It's just natural. Don't put yourself down, just work through it. So one thing that I do recommend for trying to avoid procrastination is to use a technique called the Pomodoro technique, which is basically, I think it translates to tomato in Italian, but basically it's a study session organizer that basically where you work really hard for 20 minutes, then you have a break for, I think, 5 minutes, and then you work hard again for another 20 minutes, and you do like little chunks throughout the day. And I find that's a really good way to avoid procrastination, because if you find that after 20 minutes, your brain's just not working and you just can't do anything and you're like, oh my God, I can't do it, then, you know, you can stop and kind of reevaluate. But I find that a lot of the time, once you get started, you're like, oh, it's fine now. Like my brain is finally kicked into gear. And another thing about procrastination is kind of look at to why you're procrastinating, because sometimes you might be procrastinating for various reasons. For example, it could be due to the fact that you're worried you might get something wrong, because if you never try, then you won't get it wrong. And that kind of ties into the imposter syndrome. So I think really use chunk up your time to try and avoid it. And if you still struggle, kind of look at why you are using that as a mechanism, because sometimes if you figure out those reasons and kind of overcome it, and, you know, realize that, yes, I do know things and life isn't always so bad, like it can really help. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Monique. That's great advice. Anybody else? Paul, you're nodding your head there. Do you want to add anything there?
Just adding to Monique's, mine is the 5-minute start, and I always find myself doing a lot more time than 5 minutes. So I'll make a deal that I'll sit there and focus for 5 minutes and try to focus, and then usually it's 15 minutes, then 20 minutes, and again, like I think Monique brings up a good point, is not being too harsh on yourself. You're here, you've been through study, you deserve to be here. So taking that time to appreciate that. But at the same time as well, don't forget well-being. We do have counselors here. They are psychologists. Everything is free. It's confidential. Nothing gets mentioned to anyone outside of you and your clinician. So take full advantage of that, and they may help you with sort of any underlying sort of factors, any mental blockers that are like sort of just putting hurdles in front of you. So please come and see us at Wellbeing, and we can definitely connect you with a clinician to have a chat about it.
And I guess another piece of similar advice is really one of the marks of successful learners are learners who ask for help when they need it. Don't leave it until you're panicking, and don't feel like it's some sort of stigma to ask for help, because everyone needs help at some stage of their learning journey. I know I have in the past, and it's when you go and you ask for help in a timely way, that often helps you to be, that's one of the things that can keep you procrastinating, because you're not quite sure how to tackle an assignment. But if you go and discuss it with someone like a RightWise leader, you might get more, you know, a way to go forward, and then you stop procrastinating. Does anyone else in the panel, like Irene or Sean, want to say anything there? Otherwise, I might ask Chloe for questions.
We had actually a really good question in the chat, which was any specific tips for resuming studies after a long gap?
Now that is a really good question. I think that can be a particular challenge just because things have changed maybe since the last time you were at university. But I think what I would say is to take advantage of all the help that's out there. Remember that you're not the only one in that situation. I think Monique mentioned the imposter syndrome, when you think that everybody knows more than you do. In fact, lots of people when they first start university, whether it's postgraduate or undergraduate, feel like everybody knows more than they do. In fact, you have a great deal of experience behind you. And all you need to do really is to get acclimatized to different ways of doing things possibly. But if you ask for help, like with assignments, maybe get someone to read your draft assignment if you're not sure that it's done in the correct way. That's one piece of advice. Anyone else have anything else to say about that? Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, my postgraduate study was 12 years after I finished my undergraduate study, and this was I did my undergraduate in the 90s, and I did my postgraduate in the early 2000s, and technology had come a long way, and the method of delivery had come a long way since then. I found the best way to sort of deal with this was to really connect with my peers, okay? Sit down with your peers, talk to your peers, say, I'm having issues with this, and then you'll find that a lot of them are having the same issues that you are. And that, you know, that will give you a bit more confidence and not make you have that imposter syndrome by connecting with your peers and speaking to your peers and having that sounding board of people in the same situation.
Right, great. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Sean. What about you, Paul? You're also studying. Did you return to study?
I'm still studying, so
yeah.
But I returned to study from a long career in a lot of different jobs, including plumbing and a bunch of different other things. So similar to what Sean said, is just taking full advantage of your peers, the technology, all the free services at the university. There are a lot there. A lot of students usually ask, where can I get free tutoring, where can or all that sort of stuff. It's not really sanctioned by the university, but all the stuff like connecting with your peers, connecting with student groups in the same study mode, you'll find a lot of people that are really willing to have study sessions, their own study spaces, and just really connect with each other and share ideas and bounce readings off each other. So I can only reinforce what Sean said by reaching out, get connected, and just be involved.
Okay, so Chloe, I think another question came in.
Yes, which is a question about note-taking, which is, would you suggest online note-taking or paper notes?
Okay, well, that's sort of a big topic, note-taking. We do have a resource called StudyWise, and StudyWise is a really, it's a resource that covers all study strategies and types of assignments, etc. Okay, Vanessa's showing the slide here. So under key skills, there's one on this, which is the second tile there. There's one specifically on note-taking. So rather than going into note-taking strategies here, I think go there, have a read, because there's a number of strategies, and it may be that what works for you doesn't work for someone else. So there's a number of things that you can choose there and choose the note-taking strategy that works best for you.
I will say I'm teaching a workshop on note-taking next week as well, if you check the Learning Skills workshop calendar. And there are advantages of paper-based, there's advantages of online, and of course, if you've got, say, an iPad or something, you might be able to combine and have the best of both worlds and use a stylus and take your notes digitally. But enough there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, we do have our workshop calendar. You can just search MQ workshop calendar in Google, and you'll come up with all the workshops that we're giving in weeks 1 and 2. Some of them might be relevant for you. Okay, Chloe, any other questions? I thought I saw one about how do you connect with peers? Is there something about that?
Yes, there was a question about that. I have put a link into the MQ Study Buddy program, and of course the MQ Peer Mentor program as well is also linked. But I think if the panel has any other advice as well, that'd be good.
Okay, any other advice on that?
Student groups talking to each other in class. I know most of us, you may, like, hopefully we do have, on-campus classes are plans. So make the most of the time that you are together from a socially distant perspective, I guess, and talk to each other.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So that's great. Thanks, Chloe, for putting those links in. There's also, Paul mentioned student clubs. So there are clubs that you can join about your particular interest if you have a hobby. There's also a conversation class that MQBS, the Macquarie School of Business, runs. That's open to all students. You don't just have to be in the business school, and that's a good way to just meet people and discuss things. Okay, any other suggestions there before we move on to the next topic?
Well, the final suggestion I would make is that connecting with other people, sometimes you think, well, they don't know very much. Why should I study with other people or talk about the readings? Part of the benefit is actually when you're teaching them and when you're sharing. So even if you feel like you're not learning a lot from other people, by explaining it yourself, you are learning from yourself and you're teaching yourself as well as them.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, we might move on to the next topic then.
Okay, well, the next topic is connecting with Macquarie Library. So we're going to be getting Sean to tell us a little bit more about some of the many services that the library offer to us. And particularly for postgraduates, the library is a key service and a key resource. You'll be accessing readings for class and searching for information to prepare assignments and so on. So Sean, can you tell us about some of the services and resources that the library offers?
Yeah, absolutely. The library spends a lot of money each year purchasing resources to support the teaching and research needs of the university community. 90% of our budget is spent on online resources, and most of your interactions with the library will occur online. So you can see the slide up there, and we have the library homepage, and this is the first stop for most of you in terms of your interactions with the library. It's a gateway to our collection, and the services that we offer. You can see the little the green square there. Those links on the left-hand side, that lists some of the services and information about using the library. It also provides important links to topics such as referencing, assignment and study help. And you can see I've taken a screenshot of the assignment and study support page there, and you can see the different links that are there to things like referencing, subject and research guides, which I'll talk about later, study-wise, getting help with your assignment. All of those sort of support mechanisms in terms of doing research and study are there, listed there, you know, a sort of a one-stop shop for that sort of information. You can see our opening hours on this page as well. And there's a link to Google Scholar at MQ, which allows you to search Google Scholar while being directed back to resources that we pay money for. So you won't, if you go through that link, you'll have a link to resources that Macquarie has subscription to, and you won't have to worry about not being able to find them. But your eyes will automatically be drawn to the multi-search box there. And I urge you to click. You can do a search on that particular on that homepage in the multi-search box, but I urge you to actually click on the multi-search link that's above that search box, and this will take you into the multi-search homepage. Now, multi-search is a discovery tool that allows users to run one search across our collection and multiple library databases. So it'll run, if you put some key terms in there, it'll run searches across our print collection and our online collection, so books, journals, reference materials. It'll also look at other information such as theses, dissertations, conference papers, unit readings, so you can search for unit readings in there as well. By putting in either a course code or even just a keyword, will find your unit readings or the course name. But multi-search also provides an access point to specialist databases that Macquarie subscribes to. And I'll put my business librarian hat on here to give you an example and say, just say you're looking for, say, company reports, or you're looking for statistics in terms of the economy, or you're looking for industry profiles, news databases. Multi-search provides the access point for these databases. So by going into multi-search, you will you'll be recognised as a Macquarie student, and you'll have access to these databases. A lot of I know it sort of sounds pretty straightforward, but we do have a lot of people say, okay, I'm trying to find this report from this particular database and I can't get it. We find that they've actually gone straight to the database's webpage. So you need to enter these databases through the Macquarie webpage, so it will allow you to access the material. So I've highlighted up there on the top right-hand side the sign-in link. And I encourage you to get in the habit of signing in, because this enables you to access all the materials Macquarie subscribes to. And this is particularly important when you're off campus, because sometimes you may run a search and items won't come back because they're not viewable to the general public. They're only viewable to people who have a Macquarie student ID or staff ID and a password entered into the multi-search search interface. So that's another important thing there. Sometimes you may need guidance on the resources that are available to you, or information on how to, say, use multi-search or how to reference. And this is where our LibGuides come in handy. So our subject and research guides, you can see here, they're tailored to meet the needs of students in particular subject areas. You can see, for example, the guides that are available for the areas of business and economics. So we have one on accounting, we have one on finance, economics, management, marketing, how to find company and industry information. So these guides will provide information on the databases and data sources They're available both through the library as well as some suggested public sources, quality publicly available sources that will assist you with your information needs. You can also see we have a referencing guide there. I've taken a screenshot and it's on that slide. And I urge you to bookmark this. It provides guidance on how to reference different types of materials in all the different styles used at the university. So the referencing guide will become one of your best friends. So I urge you to bookmark that guide. We do have study spaces available for our postgraduates. And so you have specially designated study spaces which provide a number of benefits and creature comforts above and beyond the general study areas. You can access these with your student card. So the library will be open from next week, so these areas will be available, which isn't of use to you if you're overseas, but it's just something to be aware of that you have access to as a postgraduate. If you have any questions around library support and services, do not hesitate to contact us. On the library homepage, there is a contact us link, and this will take you to give you the information about how you can contact the library with any questions that you may have. I urge you to use these contact methods if you have questions about general sort of transactional information, or you just want to find out if we have a book, or if you want to find out if we have a particular resource that you're after, or if we subscribe to a database, things like that, just general questions. But as postgraduates, you have access to dedicated research librarians such as myself. So we can provide assistance to you in a number of ways, whether it be guidance in doing literature searches or finding particular resources, through to giving you assistance with referencing or using EndNote, the bibliographic referencing software that I was speaking about before. So we're subject matter experts, so we have a knowledge of the resources and the needs of students who are studying in a particular subject area. So they're kind of the key things that I wanted to cover off in terms of our services and resources.
Wow, there's so much there, Sean. Thank you so much for talking us through some of the really vast number of services and resources that the library offers to us. So, I mean, there's all the resources. What do you think are a couple of skills that we could get started with at the start of semester, or the start of the session as we begin our postgrad studies?
Yeah, there are some. There's a lot of skills that are sort of fundamental to study, but I probably, if I had to pick some of the most important ones in terms of information literacy or research skills, I'd suggest skills around searching for literature, and also how to identify quality information. Okay, how to find quality information. They would probably be the two most fundamental. So literature searching and identifying quality information. Study-wise, it's a good place to start, as it contains great information and guidance to get you started on how to develop and refine these fundamental skills.
Right. So even within a search in multi-search, some of the results that you get are going to be more quality or more valuable for you than others, is what you're saying.
It's about relevance, really. That's really where it comes in most. And that's where your search skills, developing your search skills is quite fundamental in bringing back relevant resources, rather than getting pages of results and having to scan through those. Being able to construct a really focused search will bring you back quality and relevant information. So it's quite important.
Okay, excellent. Well, you mentioned referencing and bookmarking the library referencing guide. Another important resource that that will be helpful to you is the academic integrity module, which talks about the values of academic integrity. Carol, I wonder if you could talk us through a little bit more here about what those values are and what the module can help us with.
Hey, yeah, thanks. So Sean's told you all about searching and finding your quality sources. And one of the key skills then is being able to use them in your writing. And of course, we need to attribute them and learn how to reference. But all of that is really based on academic integrity values. So Macquarie places a very high value on academic integrity. And in 2018, I think it was, in consultation with students, came up with 5 values that underpin academic integrity. And they are honesty, respect, trust, responsibility, and support. And all of those form and underpin integrity at the university. So the academic integrity module, and most of you will encounter this in some way because it has become mandatory for most units at Macquarie, especially for those starting a degree. You'll find that completing the module will be a requirement. It basically does take you through with what is acceptable practice and what's not acceptable practice in terms of things like plagiarism, the difference between collusion and collaboration, contract cheating or asking someone else to do your assignment. And a lot of students sort of worry about the rules around that. So doing this module will probably lay your mind at rest. It'll tell you what is acceptable, what's not, and basically how to avoid a charge of plagiarism. And it basically, that is by attributing what you need to attribute. But this module goes into detail about that. At the end, there's a mastery quiz that you can do as many times as you like. So to help you learn all this stuff. It'll only take you about an hour to do, and I really urge you to do it. Once you've done the academic integrity module, it goes on your record so that you never have to do it again for another course. Don't worry that every unit you join, you have to do it again, because once you've done it, it's on your record, and it will help you to learn all of those issues that sometimes people really worry about in entering university. So we really do want to emphasize the fact that Macquarie is based on values, and this module will help you come across, understand all these values and how you can act on them. Thank you, Vanessa.
Right. Okay, thank you. Have we got anything, Chloe, that you'd like to raise from the chat? Okay.
No, not at the moment. Yeah, just a few things, but we're answering there.
All right. Yes, I saw some things about loans for books and so on, and for digital copies. All right. Well, let's move on then to the next section. We've talked about making our plans and preparations for study. Carol, over to you about being agile and flexible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as we all know, life can change very quickly, and we've found that out in particular this year. Lots of us had plans for this year. Lots of our plans have been put off to next year, we hope. So things have really changed for us. So I guess in this section, and it's a short section, we just have a few questions. What happens if you've made careful study plans and life gets in the way? Something happens in your personal life, or something happens to disrupt your plans. I want to just draw on the panel and ask if anyone's experienced disruption in their plans and how they deal with it, or if for Paul, it might be in particular how he's advised students to deal with it. So we might actually start with Irene. Irene, have you ever had disruption like this in your study or work career? And if so, how did you deal with it? Or you might even talk about how you dealt with COVID, because that has been a really big challenge for us in the last few months.
Hi, I haven't dealt with anything as big as COVID-19 with my study career, but I've dealt with some smaller things such as getting ill or getting sick during assignment period or exams. And the way that you have to deal with it is you have to accept, especially when I'm sick, I get a bit stubborn, but you have to accept that you just can't push yourself hard, and then you should take the relevant steps to get help. So in terms of me, I had to file for special considerations so I could get extensions of classes and not classes, assessment, sorry. So especially with COVID-19, luckily I didn't have any disruptions during last semester, but if any of you guys do experience any disruption during your time at Macquarie, do seek out the appropriate help. As Paul has mentioned, student wellbeing is here to help you, and there are a variety of services that can help you during your time at Macquarie.
Okay, thank you for that, Irene. We might move on to Monique, because I know she did have some study disruption over COVID.
So I probably might start with disruptions I've had during my previous studies, and then I'll go on to COVID, because I think they're two different monumental things. So I think probably other than COVID, one big disruption I did have was that unfortunately there was someone passed away in my family, and this was a month before my major thesis, which is, for people who don't know, it's a 20,000 word piece of writing of original research. And so this happened a month before I was supposed to send it in, which was obviously, again, not as bad as COVID, but it was, at that time, it was probably the worst thing that had ever happened. So one thing that I always tell people is that don't be afraid to ask for help, because your problems are still your problems. Because even though, like, there's always that talk, like there's people that are starving and you're complaining, but your problem is your problem and it's disrupting your life. And look to those around you who can actually help you and support you. And if you have to get extensions, or I'm not sure how the extensions work for coursework, but ask around, and please ask for help, because otherwise you'll just stress yourself out even more. And I've been there. Just please ask for help. And so with coronavirus, so I was actually supposed to start my degree during coronavirus, which thankfully I could actually extend my start date, because I actually get to choose my own start date. But I have obviously started, and I'm still feeling the effects of coronavirus. And I think I just have to keep reminding myself that I am not going to work to my usual capacity, because it is a pandemic. We have crazy things going on in this world, and that doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't mean that I don't deserve to be here. It just means that I'm human. And I think that's something that we all need to remember, that some days you're just staring at the screen being like, why is this happening? Whereas other days you'll be quite productive, especially if you're working from home and you enjoy that. So I think you've just got to take each day as it comes, and know that, especially with the disruption as monumental and unstable as coronavirus, to not put too much pressure on yourself, because that will only stress you out at the end of the day.
Thank you so much. Those are wise words, and yeah, some big things happening there that really could disrupt your studies a lot. Paul, can we ask you how you advise students, and perhaps you also, because you're studying and experienced the disruption in your studies over the last few months?
Yeah, so for me personally, I had the good fortune to actually drop my units for the past session. It was just going to be a little bit too crazy with full-time work, and I have 2 young kids, one and 3. So making a conscious decision to sort of understand my limits, and I decided to drop the 2 units. Again, that might not be everyone's option. I know there are international students in here and those that may be on a sort of a clock, but at least explore the option. Come and speak to us at Wellbeing. We can have a chat and explore all your options to see what's available for you in terms of if you can drop units and all those sorts of things, because COVID is a sort of very weird time in the world of universities. So taking full advantage of the knowledge that's out there, because it is very different at the moment. There are a lot of concessions that both the government and university are making for both international and domestic students, but don't be afraid to ask to see what's available to you. I think is probably some really good advice that was given both by Monique and Irene, just letting someone know that you may be struggling. Something that was brought up is the disruptions, what used to be called disruptions to studies, what's called now special consideration. And that is that sick note for exams, assessments. There are some criteria in there. I won't bog you down with it. It's for something like an assessment, you have to be sick for 3 or more days in the lead up to your due date. For an exam, it's a doctor's certificate on the day. There's a lot of little variations of it. The big thing that I want you to take away from this is to come and speak to me. Come and speak to one of the advisors, come and speak to someone at Wellbeing, Student Connect. Just speak to us and let us know, even if it's really, really premature, even if you're like, I'm not sure how this is going to work come exam period, come and let us know so we can at least prepare you for, if something does happen, then you're aware of the full arsenal of support systems at the university that can help you through that time as well. Because a big thing that I like students to take away from all this stuff is that university is not meant to, like, it's meant to be challenging. It's not meant to feel impossible. So when you start creeping up to that point where it's feeling like the study load is just too much and everything, you're just falling behind and you just can't get in front, come and speak to someone, whether that's your tutor, whether that's your friends, your family, let someone know that you are feeling that pressure. And if you come and let me know, like I said, it's going to be completely judgmental free. And it's just going to be more about linking you with supports that can help you through your studies, because like I said, that feeling of impossibility really shouldn't come across you, but it can. But just come and let us know.
Thanks so much, Paul. I mean, university is lots of fun, but it can also be hard, and so it is really important to remember that help is available. And in fact, that brings us back to one of those values of academic and the values underpinning Macquarie University is support. And we do try to offer the support that people need. There is a range of support, and we really value this opportunity to tell you about it, because one of the issues sometimes is that students don't know what support's available. So to have this chance to tell you about all the things that are available at university is really great. Okay, we might move on then. I'll hand over to Vanessa to go to another poll.
All right, well, we've been talking about the fact that we've got lots of different forms of support here at Macquarie. So let's put up a couple of little scenarios and think about which teams or where you might go to get some advice or some suggestions. So we've got a first question up. Perhaps you'd like to have a look at that and see what you think. There's probably more than one answer, so pick as many as you like.
And there's 4 questions in that poll, so you can just progress down them as you answer them.
Nice work. People are going in and picking a few. right, we might start chatting through some of the different places to get these help for these different situations. So by all means, keep voting if you like. Let's have a look at the first one. So if you were finding it stressful to manage work and study, yes, we've got 92% of people have said student wellbeing, and Paul's put his hand up to say that is a great place to go and talk to somebody. And of course, if you're not on campus, which you might not be, you can definitely access student wellbeing online. So how would they do that, Paul?
So yeah, like I said, so there where we can call international numbers as well. So don't feel like if you are international, you can't reach out to us and speak to someone. Our lines will call international numbers, but email is easily the best way to get in contact with us, because the email channels are manned every single hour of the business hours. But at the same time, we are looking at them at very weird times of the night. Again, 7 o'clock at night. It's usually
Right.
sometimes fun as well. But yeah, email, phone, chat, just any way to get in contact with us, please come and see us and we can see how best to help you.
Thank you. That's great. All right, now another one that people thought would be helpful if you are feeling stressed might be Macquarie Mentors. Now, the mentors aren't trained to support students, but as people have been saying throughout our session tonight, you know, reach out and let people know. And Irene, I would be guessing that the mentors would definitely then be passing you on and helping you make contact with student wellbeing.
That's correct, yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The same would be true for your lecturer. So if you were finding that you were having some challenges, they would be passing you through. So there's a great sort of interrelationship and connection at the university. Now the next one, well, Sean, you've done a great job of selling the skills of librarians to help students. So yes, definitely. If you're struggling to find research articles, then check in with the librarians. You want to say anything more there, Sean?
No, that's our bread and butter. That's what we do. So
yeah, indeed.
Just reach out.
Yeah, and as Sean mentioned before, I think one of the best things about the library, that library homepage, bottom right-hand corner, there's the little chat now button, and you can talk to somebody online. I've done that on a Sunday when I've been writing an assignment. Everything's closed, but there's been a librarian on the other end ready to help. Don't forget as well, your lecturer will often know really great resources for you, and they often take time to put that information in your iLearn module or your unit guide to recommend particular journals or readings, and they'll definitely be pointing you to library as well. Now, if you wanted to get some feedback on a draft assignment, we haven't got as many answers here. Maybe people didn't get quite this far down, or maybe you weren't so sure. Monique, would you like to talk to us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, of course. So one thing that I wish was ticked more, because even though I work for it, we are great, I promise, is the RightWise program. So as I mentioned earlier, we offer a drop-in service, which is about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how busy we are and the complexity of your question. And we can help with anything to do with the assignment process except for content. One thing is giving feedback on a draft. And I know it can be a bit daunting sometimes to get a feedback because you're like, oh, I got it wrong. Oh no, the horror. But I think it's really helpful to get some fresh eyes to look at it, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I've been reading an essay or an assignment for like hours and hours that day, and I'm like, I'm just over it. And then I'll click on it again in a couple of days and I'm like, how many mistakes are there? Like you've just read it so many times that you can't see the mistakes anymore, which isn't a bad thing. It's just natural. And so it's really great to get some fresh eyes to have a look. So even though we might not be the same field, we can still kind of look at the general structure and the way that you've answered the question and if it actually makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, lovely to have a reader for your writing. So the RightWise program is giving you feedback, and it's other students at Macquarie students who are good writers themselves, like Monique, but you will get that feedback from other students at Macquarie. That's virtual. Again, you can access that through that chat on the library, or we'll be putting up another link for you to find. Another useful service, which is 24/7, is the Studiosity service. So if you want to submit a draft and get someone to look at that and give you some feedback, Studiosity also are able to do that. They're not Macquarie students, but Studiosity data shows that a lot of people are submitting assignments at 10 p.m. at night or 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you're one of those people working hard overnight, need some feedback, that could be an excellent place for you to find that support there. All right, and referencing and citation, yes, Writewise will be able to help you. Yes, Sean and our other expert research librarians can give you excellent advice there on referencing. The referencing guides on the library website, available 24/7, and we've got a whole stable full of different referencing guides there that you can access. StudyWise will give you advice on writing and using references in your writing, and the academic integrity module will show you how to use those or to remind you about some of the principles behind that as well. And your iLearn unit guide will probably link you to some of those other resources that we've mentioned. All right, so thank you very much everyone for that. Quick little quiz there. One of our final slides now, we're nearly finished, is to ask each of the people in our panel today, what was one piece of advice that you wish you'd been given when you were studying and when you started about succeeding at uni? And I'll pass it over to Carol to moderate this one now.
So nothing much to moderate except to ask you all. I think if those of you who are with us, this is fantastic that all of you are staying, and stay tuned for this section because it might be the best piece of advice you've heard all evening, although we've had lots of good advice. So we might start with Irene. Irene, could you tell us what's a piece of advice that you wish you had been given before you started?
Okay, a piece of advice I wish I was given before I started university was don't be afraid of types of services or help to help you during your time at Macquarie. When I first started, I did a lot of services such as learning skills and Macquarie mentors, but I was very scared to do so. And it wasn't until like second semester when I was starting to get the hang of things, I was like, it's okay to get help. So that would be my biggest tip.
Okay, great. How about you, Sean? You're muted.
I would have sought advice about unmuting before I spoke, but secondly, I would have liked advice around time management because procrastination was my middle name and probably still is to a degree. But would I have listened to them? That's another issue. Another fundamental piece of advice is don't be afraid to ask questions. People often stand back and say, oh my goodness, I can't ask that because it's a stupid question. But the thing is, someone else has probably got the same question. So there's so many services and people available to assist you. So take advantage of that. There's no shame in asking a question, and there's no such thing as a silly question. Believe me, as I said, someone's probably got exactly the same question or asked exactly the same question that you have. So that's probably the advice that I would give.
Okay, Monique.
So Sean has actually stolen my best piece of advice. It was given to me by one of my supervisors that said that there is no such thing as a stupid question, and that you, as Sean said, like probably someone else has got that question as well. And there's nothing worse than going through a whole unit or even a whole week or an assignment not knowing something. So yeah, I definitely recommend to overcome that fear of, oh my God, I don't want to ask a question, I'm going to look like a lunatic. and actually ask that question, because you've got to stay naturally curious. Like, obviously you're continuing your studies, and that means that you quite like what you do, and there's nothing wrong with being curious. And if you're the only people that would judge you for asking a question are people that you don't want to be. So don't be afraid to ask questions, because there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Thank you, Monique. Okay, how about Paul?
Yeah, well, before I lose my job, I forgot to mention Wellbeing has a 24-hour phone line. So please, at any time, if you want to call it, it's 1-800-CARE-MQ. That's 1-800-2273-67. So at any point, please give us a call and let us know if you are struggling. We will follow it all the way through, and I'll do our best to help you. So before I lose my job, make sure I mention that post as well. It's twofold for me in terms of the best piece of advice. The one that I wish I listened to a lot earlier was take feedback seriously, but not as criticism. Take it as a way to sort of sharpen your knowledge and your skills to make you better, because that's the aim of the feedback that you get. And don't be afraid to ask to get clarification on that feedback as well, because tutors are always like, they do see a lot of papers, lecturers, they do see a ton of papers, and it may be short, but if you need a further explanation on it, I guarantee you they'll be able to give you a bit more detail on where to go from that. The second piece of information that I wish I had is that bathrooms on campus, when we're on campus, get cleaner the higher you go. So if you need to look for a clean bathroom, just go to the top floor and work your way down.
Thank you, Paul. That's all good advice. Vanessa, would you like to say something there?
I can't top Paul after that. That was great. Yeah. But I thought, yes, take feedback seriously, but not as criticism. I thought that was great. And thank you about Irene, Monique, Sean. Yeah, I don't think I've got anything to add.
I would just like to add one little point, and that's try to keep up with the readings. When I was doing my master's, I found that if I didn't keep up and I got behind, then I got a little bit overwhelmed. So I did try really my best to try to read things before my lecture, because also I found out I got so much more from the lectures if I actually had read and knew what questions to ask. So I guess that's to do with procrastination and all of that too. But to try to stay up, don't try not to fall too far behind. But of course, if you do, then there's steps you can take and help you can get. And I also wanted to say that point about feedback is really good. One of the things that students often think is that feedback is something that lecturers do and markers do. Actually, feedback is something that an active student can also do. It's a matter of learning from the feedback. And actually, another thing that WriteWise can do, if you're puzzled about some feedback that you got, you can take your paper to WriteWise and say, look, I got this comment, what did they mean and why did they give it? That's another thing that they can help you with. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of our session now. We just have a few slides at the end with some useful links and information. So just very briefly, I'll speak to the learning skills ones. We've got our interactive workshops I mentioned to you. Go to MQ. Maybe Chloe can even put in a link to the workshop calendar. StudyWise, that's in your iLearn unit. So is AIM. And under student support, and of course the individual consultations. And if you just change that slide, the next one I think is a slide on getting help. This is a key page for learning skills and for other places. It's got links to StudyWise. It's got all the details about how to get a WriteWise consultation. There's a chat button at the bottom of the page where you can chat to a WriteWise. It's also got that Studiosity information. So it's got how to get onto Studiosity where you can submit a paper. So if you remember this page, getting help with your assignment, or just search that, it's lots of information here. It's also got a link to the workshop calendar and to higher degree research and the numeracy center. So some of you who might need help with maths, maybe you're doing a master's in a math related subject that you don't have a lot of background with it, there's also a numeracy center, which can be really helpful for students who need a little bit of help with that. And the next slide, I think, is maybe, oh, it's library. So I'll hand over to Sean to just quickly talk about that. And you're muted again, Sean.
I really should take that Zoom 101 course, but okay. Thought by this far into COVID, I would have had that down pat. But anyway, so the library homepage, very important. The multi-search link that I showed you before. Subject and research guides, they fall under the assignment and study support, as does the referencing guide, as does the assignment and study support skills page, which has a link to a number of different things, including Studiosity, StudyWise, all of these different resources, and the contact us down the bottom. That's where you'll be able to find your particular research librarian. So there's three of us attached to the business school, and all the other faculties have a number of research librarians attached to them. So the contact us button there will take you through to the general contact us, and also a link to to find the research librarians for your particular faculty or school. So library homepage, multi-search, subject of research guides, assignment and studies support and study skills, and the contact us. The library homepage is, there is a link to it from the university homepage, but I found a good way to find anything for the university is go to Google and type in MQ library. And that's usually a good way of finding things.
Thanks, Sean. And I think it's very true. We all use Google to find things at Macquarie because the Macquarie search engine is not particularly useful. So I think everyone.
I didn't say that.
You didn't say that, but I'm going to be very upfront about that. Okay. So our next slide. Okay, that's some useful library links. Mentors. Irene, would you like to speak to this very briefly?
Yeah, so Macquarie University Mentors, known as the Peer Mentoring Program, is an excellent way to help transition new students into university life. I did it when I first started with Macquarie. I highly recommend it. You'll be paired up with a mentor, such as you'll see on your screen. Hello, mentors. And they will help you, refer you to any type of services, answer questions that you have during Macquarie, and they'll be also sending you weekly messages, and they can help you during the first semester of your time at Macquarie.
Thank you so much. And I also want to give a big shout out to the peer mentors who have been on the chat program. They've joined us and they've been answering questions all the way through. Thank you so much to all of you. You've been a huge asset tonight. Okay, do we have a slide on, oh yes, well-being.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Vanessa, for putting that up there so I may keep my job. All our contact details are there, and where we are situated on campus as well. So both at the Hearing Hub and Muse. You'll usually find me at Muse and some of the other student wellbeing advisors. There's two more of us, Reese and Grace. At any point, if you need to speak to us, just come and ask for any one of us and we can definitely link you in. I was a bit disappointed in that poll. You could have all put student wellbeing as where you would go, because I would direct you to Sean and Brightwires and everyone else. I would at least point you in the right direction. I won't be able to give you much help on that side. But we do have counselling, we have accessibility, welfare, three main areas. Again, they can be wide-ranging. As for counselling, it could just be a 15-minute, what's called a triage appointment with this with a psychiatrist, psychologist, sorry, and then you're just having a chat with someone. Or it can be the longer 50-minute ones as well. Accessibility can be something like a permanent or like temporary impairment, and it can be really wide-ranging for things like if you're a carer, you can qualify for accessibility as well to actually get sort of help with your study. It's all about leveling the playing field and making sure you're performing at your academic best as well. Same for welfare. You're going to have a lot of financial pressures during COVID as well. Please let us know so we can see how best to help you through that. And then while it's not under our wing in terms of wellbeing, advocacy is somewhere we work really closely with, and that's all university policy and procedures. So if you do find yourself in some sort of any academic strife, please come and see us, and we can sort of speak to the advocacy team about how best to support you through that. Just remember, the advocacy team represents you, not the university, so they can help you through all of that as well. 24-hour call number there. Don't forget, there's a wellbeing app. Please reach out to us and let us know how best we can help you through your time here.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, and I'm not sure if I did add a slide on HDR. Yes, just for those of you who are doing higher degree research, there is also an HDR learning skills. They will help you with writing your thesis or researching. There's research writing groups, consultations, online research, online resources, as well as workshops. They run their own workshops. So if you are doing an HDR degree, if you are studying in that area, do check this out. Again, there's a link to it from that Getting Help with Your Assignment, or just search HDR learning skills. So I think that's the end of our slides. Vanessa, shall I hand over to you for the last bit?
Or if you like. All right. So I guess really all that's left to say is thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you for your questions. Chloe, is there any last question that people have raised?
No, but just to address a few common questions, there is an O-Week website where this recording will be available. It probably won't be immediately. They are collecting them, curating them, and then uploading them. And if you Google MQ, if you just go to the students homepage on the library website, there is a big banner there, and you can go straight to that site there. And also you can save the chat as well, which I've been dumping a lot of links into. So in the chat function, there's a box with 3 little dots. Right, click that, I'll click that and click save chat. So that way you can have the chat and have all of those links there. And also the slides will go up, and the slides do have links on them as well.
Oh.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Chloe, for managing all of that. Thank you very much to our panel tonight. And you can see some of the points that we've been talking about. But to all of you who've attended, wishing you all the very best for session 2. I hope you enjoy your studies and look after each other. Make contact with all of us and with other people across the university, whether we're on campus or across the world. It's lovely that we were able to stay in contact. So thank you very much, and check out the rest of the O-Week events that are happening tomorrow. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Okay, bye everyone.